Morning, everyone. In this video, we're going to do another deployment scenario. I'll say breakdown, but just kind of a thought process. And this time, we're going to be looking at senators and any D-shaped map. Maybe we'll talk about the difference between whether it's a portals or a extremist or the other one with the cosmic invasion or whatever the power one is. I guess it does matter if it's pay to flips or not. Maybe not for the roster that I'm going to be talking about, but it matters for maybe some decisions we'll make. Um, but yeah, let's get into it. So first off, as you know, this is based around my convocation roster, and so you know, just real quick, I'm not go through the roster. This is kind of like the post squad goals, no team tournament. I get Rhino back list. Still Zemo, still question mark here and there. Don't know what I really need. Nothing too special here. I mean, you can see the current lineup of a Crisis. Obviously, who knows what things are going to change in the future, and we'll talk about that in another video one day. I think what I could see changing. Um, we've heard rumors of R&D being rotated out. I could see Age of Ultron is probably definitely going to go. Things like I don't know. People have been mumbling about the whole books for setting thing. So if that ever went to grunt only, but if those things happen, if we hear rumors, more solid things of that happening, we'll have tactical talk about that. Nonetheless, we're playing in the game now and not in the future. So let's talk about this. So um, this is a D shape, and so given my crisis, there's no way to get a D shape without my opponent picking secures, which normally means they have priority because I probably wouldn't pick my extracts if they have a bunch of D's and I have E's and like sword. I probably am picking my secures, so we can make the claim. Oh, there's a bug. This bug that like danger room ones come up. Um, we know that if I'm going on D shapes, I get to pick the points. So Extremist is 17, Portals is 18, the other one is Cosmic Invasion, I think it's called, is 16. I don't have to play on those point levels. I know I can always play on 19 or 20 because those are my extract values. We're going to do 19 in this case, 20. I think there's obviously decisions, the shape's different, but I think Senators and D shapes it gets to be really interesting, especially like the turn one stuff. And so this is the team that I want to try on it. I've never played it on it because I haven't had Rhino in a while, and Jugs is new to the roster. But I feel like it would be a very good or solid 19 to play on this. So just from a pure like D-shape perspective, okay, you got a back point sitter and Wong. I mean, people can dive your back one, obviously, but I always like to have a cheap model back there. It just makes you feel less bad if you're going to be going like up into the enemy. You got two medium base, medium movers. He has a place. Jugs is very good at rotating on Ds. He not only has, I think it's two things, and I've said this before. I don't know why this thing dropping on the objective is such a pain in the ass, but one thing to keep in mind is part of the play pattern of Jugs is to walk. So because it's so good to walk and slide, he can not only get between these, but he also gets an attack that can push people off. If he gets a bunch of power, he can keep sliding. Stuff like that. So I'm going to reset the tokens because this feels like it's hopefully not going to keep doing this error. It's going to do it, whatever. Rhino the same way, probably one of the best, if not the best, D-shape 4 because of Stampede. I mean, with Stampede, like, in his range 3 place attack, I don't even know if he has to ever, probably not, no. I think he can reach everything with his attack. So he could always, like, Stampede, double attack on a point if he needed to. Mordo, he's the 3 threat. I need a 3 threat. It could be magic. Maybe on Senators, he has a little bit more uses because of just his movement's a little bit better. I mean, I guess Magic has a place. I guess this could be Magic. He's better at picking up a Senator turn 1. Magic has a little bit more, I guess, rotation potential with the center because she can walk and place, especially if she's loaded up on power. I wouldn't say I'm too worried about either one. He has some uses being a medium base for some bump stuff we'll show. And then Strange, obviously, he's a go-to leader. He's great on Senators, in my opinion. And, he has a place so he can walk, place on a point, attack somebody, place people off. I do think, when it comes to Jugs, for example, Do You Know Who I Am? And Strange's Scalpel, also very solid on Senators because throwing somebody long when they can only walk once with the center can make D shapes very difficult. And it kind of takes, they get around. I think it's the other thing to kind of notice with these three models is they get around the limitation that senators on D shapes kind of put in to people, right? If you're playing Ultron on this, which you could do, I'm not saying it's impossible if you maybe dive in back here and try to play on this side, on the enemy side. If Ultron has a center here and the fight's over here, he can't. There's nothing he can do. He can only walk once. He doesn't even get to another point. At least like all three of these models, if they have power, can walk, slide, and like get closer and still be useful. Like it's not even enough that they can't. Like senators just prevent you from double walking, which is an issue. So if you're already out of position, right? If you scalpel somebody, that's the other thing about like Strange's scalpel, right? If you're a medium mover and you're off of this thing by a point, if you scalpel somebody directly away, 3, a medium move versus range 3 is 1 inch difference. So that means if you're not touching this template, so if you're not like on this, sorry, let's just do it. If you're not on it, but let's say you're just here, right there, just off of it, not much, but if you get teleported like directly away from where you are, which is also important to note when you're teleporting people, you can't get back on it in one move. So if you have a senator, you are screwed potentially of getting a point if you're not careful and Strange is there and you're not on the thing to start. If you're on the thing to start, then you can always get back within 1, assuming you move directly the same way that he was teleported, which is not always possible given just people's placement and stuff like that, but just good to know. All right, so that's the team. I think it's pretty good on it. I want to try it more. It doesn't come out much because you pretty much have to play a D-shape enemy, and they have to get priority and get their D-shapes. But I think I've talked about some of the center stuff. In fact, this isn't new. I had a general placement video, like measurement video, where I talked a lot about some of these ranges. But I'm doing a specific one for senators in this, so we'll just go there. So when I look at senators, I see 3 points to potentially contest. You got to contest your back one. You want to pick up at least 3 senators so you go even, in my opinion. You won't have priority in this situation, and I think that's perfectly fine. And I think it's an interesting one because there's no natural, even if you can get to the center in one move, it doesn't matter because you can't walk off it to get to the point. So, something like Sword and Scoundrels, you can get to the center and stay on the Scoundrel, so you can do that kind of 2 for 1. So let's just say you're playing 6 wide or 7 wide people. Like they're still limited in what they can do. A lot of people can't get to the center and get off of it in one go, especially turn 1. So it gets kind of funky. And so here's how some distances that are just naturally good to know, right? A medium base, these 2 guys can't get to the center in one move. These 2 can, and Wong can't. So a medium base, medium move can get to a center in one move. Rhino, Jugs can't. They take 2. Wong cannot get in 1. But that's okay. So one thing I think about here is I think there's a potential to take eyes on the prize in this situation. And so I would probably set up something like, this is very basic, but I'll give you some ideas why. So if you set up between the senators, a medium base, medium mover can still get to them, either one. So depending if the enemy wants to try to take one of yours, Mordo can still take either one. I think ideally you're taking a side one because you want to be closer to the Ds unless you plan on falling back to here. And somebody like Mordo, one thing I do like about him is, and I guess technically Magic could do it if they were on the point, but Mordo could do one of 2 things. If for example, even if he's your first activation and there's no one to attack, right? He can walk up, take one. He probably wants to be on the side with Jugs, to be completely fair. But actually, he's good with both. Actually, never mind. He's good with Rhino and Jugs because the +2 dice ability he has. It's nice on Rhino because obviously getting a 7 dice or 9 dice attack is a lot of power that Rhino could use. But the damage also gives him a power, so that's pretty nice. And especially if you're on something like Extremis, you could just heal it back. Like it's almost like a 1-for-1. Like the damage. I mean, on Rhino, it's basically +2 dice for 2 power. Anyway, he can walk here and meditate because he can't move anyway. But he's also range 4, so he can hit pretty much most people on the other two senators, potentially the point. Obviously, if somebody's standing back here, you can't get to them, but typically on D shapes, depending on the size, the move of the people, they're typically going to the inside, because if you don't, like, if you have a medium mover out here, he can't get to this one in 2 moves, so it's important to kind of stay within the diamond. So I think knowing that, like, it gives you the option. But you can also go to the middle. If they take this one, you want to be able to go here if necessary. So that's one thing I think about. Same with Strange. He can go to either one. There's a couple more moves with him later. I think Rhino, you're doing one of two things. I think you want to put him in a way that... So one thing that is good to note is just from a general. So he can start on this objective. He cannot get to... If you start straight in the middle and start on this console, you will not make it to a side D. Now, maybe on Senators, it might not be as big a deal. With like Rhino, for example, I think you can still get to their Senator. Can you get to their Senator on their backside? I guess if I would have went straight at it, I definitely could have. But yeah, you could still get to their Senator. If you would have walked straight at it, he would have got to it. I don't know if that's necessarily necessary. It's still okay, but I think maybe I went wrong there. Yeah, you're pretty much... Because what I want to do with Rhino, for example, is I want to steal their back Senator, right? He can't get to mine in 1, so he gets no benefit. He also protects, like, the one you have, so you probably want to be maybe a little bit over here. He can kind of protect one, so if they dive yours, you can just walk up, attack them, place behind them, and steal theirs. So that's kind of nice. So you basically get an attack out of it. You could also just double walk and grab theirs, and if you grab it, I mean, pretty much anywhere to the left of the token, not only do you force them to kind of come get yours, which could be dangerous when you have these team behind you, because even like Jugs could walk up and smack you. If they do want to bully Rhino a little bit and attack him, you can just bump back here, or if you really want to get fancy, you could I mean, if they do it later in the turn, you could aggressive bump onto their back D, which is really obnoxious for them. So I think Rhino taking one of these back ones on a D is really good. So that's probably what I'm thinking about with him. Protecting one, going for a back one, and doing stuff like that. Now, obviously, if they take, they're going to have priority. So what you do is going to depend on what they take first. So one card that I find interesting on this that maybe not intuitive is Eyes on the Prize. Especially without priority, it might seem a little weird, but I think there's two main Eyes on the Prize plays I think about. Maybe with pay to flips there's more, because you could like flip with Strange and walk and dumb stuff like that. Like you could Eyes on the Prize, flip, walk, pick one up, whatever. Not sure I like that. Two are, because you have Wong and Mordo, you probably don't want them both sitting on the back. So it really depends. Do you want Wong to have one? Because you can walk up, Eyes, play Eyes, walk up, meditate, take this one, and so you got 2 for 1. You got the midpoint, and you got Wong already sitting on the back, which means none of your other people need to go back there. This is in lieu of Wong giving a power to somebody, which I think also has uses. So I could even see not doing it first, right? Because you have multiple Eyes on the Prize plays, and I'll show you the other one I like. You don't even have to do it first. You can wait and see if they try to take yours, and if you feel safe or if you feel good, do it. Because remember, 3 points, 3 senators. You can't take all of them. It's very difficult. I mean, you're probably not going to be able to contest all 3 and have a senator, because a large base doesn't fit between both. So unless you have some type of movement tech, you're not going to be able to do it. But one thing that is cool with Eyes on the Prize is a large base model can fit between both. So if you take Juggernaut and just walk him here, he can be on this Extremist and within range of this. So he could pick up the Senator, be on the inside of the D, and he'd still have a power left, which is great. If he gets hit, he can take reduce the damage. But like I said, most enemy models, like, what are they doing? And if actually, it's kind of funny, because if somebody, it's a little harder with, I guess you have to, that's really difficult. No, you can't push. One thing is, because of the Eyes on the Prize timing, which is very important to note, you have to pay for it in the beginning. You can't do something like walk, slide, punch somebody, then I guess this does take a double walk, but you couldn't like walk, slide into position if you knew exactly how to get there, and then hit somebody, then place item of the prize, and then pick it up if you got the 2 power. So that's something to note. But I think him just taking it and being on the side already puts you at such a like large advantage that it's probably worth it for eyes. Because you gotta remember here, like I think people think of eyes on the prize as like I want a safe grab, and I think that's fine though overrated sometimes. You could think of it as +1 VP potentially, right, or -1 VP for your enemy depending if they can contest this. So what I just did by walking up and grabbing this and staying on this is I got a body on the side one, kind of forces the enemy to do it, and I get a senator with it. So I paid 1 point. Otherwise, he's standing here, which is still fine. I think it's not because if Wong does this, I think you just do this with Juggernaut. You potentially do this one with Rhino again, depending on what they do, and then you have the saying, okay, if you attack me, I'm just gonna bump to the side. So almost they're like they don't want to attack you. Like it really does kind of suck to attack you. I think in this scenario, I'd prefer to grab like if they gave me the ability to grab 5 senators, I would take 5 senators. And then just kind of like migrate to the back. Because if you had 5 senators in this, that means they have 1. They can't beat you if you're sitting on your back point. I'm not saying you have to migrate to the back, but I like that. I think the Wong play is pretty good. It gets a senator on Wong, which isn't bad. He can't. I mean, he's not gonna be able to double move to another one. He could be dove for it, but depending on what you're doing, you can keep him alive. You can do stuff as needed. I think we're focusing on the non-pay to flip version here. If pay to flips start becoming a thing, or not become a thing, but if it is a thing, Wong could just move here and flip this one and then walk away. You know, Jugs could technically flip this one, though he would after he gets a senator, so he could be placed. So Spider Portal Senators is like really. In fact, he could just do it if you really want to be sneaky. You could pick up the senator here and then flip the spider portal using eyes on the prize, which would let you, if you get placed 2, you're not like as super fucked by it. But with Jugs, I don't care what people say. I mean, the fact that you can walk, slide, gets you pretty far. And if you get power to do it again, I don't think you're getting super screwed by the portal. But we're not talking about portals here. The other thing is, so we talked about Jugs and Rhino kind of going there. And you can do the same. You can grab your own and be within bump range if you really want. I mean, you can grab theirs if you really want. I think you kind of want them to take their mid one because it kind of puts their model in probably the most awkward position. To have a senator in the middle, like, it's very hard. I don't even know. Let's see. Like, if you take it on the right side, let's just say you take it here with, like, Mordo. Can you make it to this one? Yeah. See, that's what's kind of weird is if you take it in the middle and you're not fast enough, you don't even have a play to, like, get to a side one. So you kind of want to prioritize, I think, the side ones. If Jugs is in the middle, first off, he can't get to the side D's, which kind of sucks. But can he get anywhere cool? Let me just see. I guess depending on where an enemy was, you could... Nah, you can't bump. Won't get it. Okay. Rhino is probably an interesting one to take their mid one, only because you could bump aggressive onto their point. So again, it really depends. You got to remember they got to do the same shit you got to do, right? They have to pick up points. They have to get to the sides. They take a lot of move actions. If they don't have long movers, if they don't have medium-based medium movers, they're not getting to the centers in one. So it's not like they can get a free attack off of it. Like Mordo can walk up and meditate. Mordo can walk up and throw a size 4 hex thing at people and cover a lot of ground, which gives him a power. So it's kind of like you're trading 4 dice in a power for a chance at hex and some damage. Again, Rhino can walk and attack people and flip. If they get spicy on a senator, I mean even he, if you don't want to do the eyes on the prize play, because you don't need eyes on the prize here, right? You basically threaten to say, all right, go to a senator. If you go to one of these, he could be here and say, all right, if you go to it, I'm going to go here. And then I'm gonna stampede myself. And depending on where Mordo is, it could be a plus dice one. Not stampede, whatever his ability's called. You can kind of go like this. And then depending on where they're standing, you can probably get yourself in a way that you can attack somebody holding this senator and pick up this one if you get a power from it. So a lot of first turn pressure with a lot of these models. Again, something I've also talked about would be if you're sitting on the back of a senator, let's say you pick it up exactly away, and then somebody has, you know, something even straight across, right? If they go get their senator, like a Mordo or something, they're going to get within range 1 of theirs, but they're not going to be within range 3 of you. That's very important to know. You're safe from a lot of those things. One reason maybe you don't do the eyes on the prize play with Wong is, where did I put Wong? Where'd he go? Where's my boy? Oh, he's over there. Yeah. Okay. Pretend Wong gave Strange a power. And so I've talked about this before. Strange is even sitting in between 2 of them. Strange can teleport. Take all his power 4. I know it's expensive, but take 4 to teleport. And he is within 3. More so even if he's straight up on it. So, if somebody goes and takes one of theirs 2 first, depending on where Strange is, you can threaten to attack them. Because I put Strange in between, so you can threaten both. And probably what you want to do is, one thing that's nice about this, though, that I like at least, is you kind of want to aim for this one. And the reason being is, if everything goes well, right, you could teleport yourself. It costs 4 power. Okay, cool. Right, it costs 4 power. God dang it. I wish there was a button for this, Carl, so I could do it while I'm making a video. Right. Oh my god, you're killing me, Strange. You teleport here. You can't pick it up, you don't have power, but you have 2 attacks. So if it is somebody on the weaker side, you roll. If you damage them, right, you can pick it up and do a double tap if you want. But if you damage them on the first attack, you still have a move action left. You could walk over here. So there's a world where you can teleport Strange, potentially do a 7 dice attack with Mordo, depending on where Mordo and Strange are. Who knows where he is? Just potentially. Do a damage, pick up the sun under your feet, walk to an extremist, heal yourself the damage you took from Mordo. You would need to do 2 damage with a 7 dice pierce turn 1. Or you just double tap him and try to kill him and say, fuck it, whatever. Start the damage train early. So, man, this team, I really like this team in this setup. As 2 people that can easily dive them, and the leadership or aggressive punishes them. So not only do you not really want to hit them because reduction, large bump, honorary, they can bump back and pick up these. If you do choose to dive one of theirs, they have very good models to punish you, especially with something like Strange teleports the one you're not on and just double taps you and either takes yours or takes the one under you. Mordo, again, I think we talked about it before. If they dive you and you have Juggernaut, you can easily, attack them and still probably get one of the other senators or push them into a bad position. Or Rhino, Rhino's another good example of walk, attack. And at the very least, depending on where they're standing, right? If there's kind of standing, it doesn't matter if they take your thing. You could walk, attack, and either place on the point or grab this senator. Or place on the point, grab the senator, and shove him away with robbery if you have it, right? For example, lots of little things you can do on this setup. I really want to test this setup a couple times, force it. Because it's not even crazy, right? 19 is, and you're going to be able to pick the points. Are there teams that are still really cagey and can run around? Yeah, but you have really good damage on 3.5 of your models, right? It's not like getting attacked by these 3 is fun for anybody because there's a good chance they're doing double tapped with Strange, double tapped with Rhino. Jugs is probably only getting 1, but it's going to be 8 dice, and he can run into you for damage, which is always nice for pinging people, and rotating. And they're not easy to kill because they're fairly tanky for the most part, if Books is up or something. You have Wong to heal in the back point if you need to. If it's Extremist, you have Extremist on consoles. And just bumping. The thing is, because of how this scenario is, you really got to be good about your bumps because, let's just say Strange is chilling here, right? And he has a senator. A place won't get him to this one. But if you attack him and then he gets the bump and then place, so assume the bump came back here, he can get to it. So there's like bumps like put yourself into like positions that the enemy might not want you in. So it's this weird, if you can get ahead on the extracts or get parity or close, it becomes really awkward potentially for them because it might be hard to get it off you, or if they're attacking you, they might be giving you leverage to go and do other things. And with Do You Know Who I Am and Scalpel, even he has a push, though I never use it. You do have a lot of play, and he's just his builder, I guess, is a push. You have a lot of ways to displace people, but also displace people in a way that is obnoxious with the senators, right? You get somebody on their back point with a senator and you scalpel them away, and all of a sudden they can only do so much, you know? For example, you know, if you had a bill here, I mean, a bill with a senator kind of sucks because it's just like, I guess he can throw his little thing, but you can like, you teleport him back, and now all of a sudden, you know, I don't even think 2 moves might not even get him to a side thing. It might get him to it, but it takes 2 turns to do it, or you just scalpel him again. Yeah, he'll get there in 2, but just being able to like scalpel people away, especially if somebody's slow. You're probably not playing slow models here. It can even hinder people a lot on even long movers, depending on where you put them, their rotation and stuff. A lot of move and damage. A lot of advantage of attacking people and placing bumps and stuff. Another reason, but thing is, this is the 19 team, right? This is not a. Do I think this team is actually pretty good on this setup? I potentially think it's really good on this setup. But does it make me want to play these myself? No, because if I play these, then the enemies who are good at these get these on their extract, which could be something like Spider Infected, which is 17, which I don't want to play. Or, I mean, 17, I guess you could take Jugs and make him a 3, like a Zemo, and it's probably fine. You could even take, you know, like Zemo Magic, well, yeah, it's fine. Not my favorite team. But, like, I guess in my thought process is, at some point, if they're going wide, another thing about wide versus, you know, people talk about really wide teams, and they can be really annoying, and last activation, all this other bullshit. Sure, it's important. I also think if your team, like, if you're pillow-fisted and you're not as wide, it's a problem. If you have a team that can, like, fuck people up, I think being one less is fine, because what ends up happening a lot of the times is you get to go with priority, daze somebody, and still retain priority and take one of their activations away. So now they're down probably a 3 threat for their first activation. Could be an important one. You still get to go last, and you know, and a lot of times their last activation isn't like game ending. Some of the models are really good, but you can like walk up to spiders, potentially try to kill Gwen, and then you get priority to kill her again, right? Stuff like that. And so sometimes I think like 5 to 4 activations, being the 4 can be a lot better if you can reliably kill one of the 5s every time, or at least maybe a potentially important one. Killing Wong isn't exactly the creme de la creme. But another thing that could be an issue here, right? If you're playing 4 wide 19, this is a bad example because no one's probably doing it on this. But like Wong dying sucks because I don't get to use Wong, but I also don't get priority back too. So it's they can set up these plays where they daze people into KOing them. Now I don't have anyone that is particularly easy to like one round and one round again, other than like Wong and maybe Mordo, especially with like sack, fallback, you know, all the cards. And if Wong's getting double tapped, it's just whatever at this point. You just accept it. But if your whole team is like 3 threats, and they're pretty good 3 threats, and they do get double tapped, you're usually losing potentially a lot of value. So I don't think you automatically lose because you don't go 6 wide. I think you do have to be a little more aggressive with doing damage and making sure. I think you still need to make sure that the models you're going aggressive with have potential to score points if the enemy doesn't deal with you, right? You can't just have all your models trying to kill people not on Ds and just randomly scattered about. You have to still be like, I'm going to be here, and you might be able to tie it. Also, random note, I think one thing that's probably not talked about enough, and it's not really a specific to this crisis setup, but just something in general, would be a lot of times you're left with the decision of, I can score a point or I can contest a point, right? So let's say the enemy Wong is here and you have Mordo here. Let's say he hasn't activated yet. He's here. And you could say, well, let's just say that these are the only two models. I could either go here and we both get a point, I go here and neither of us get a point. I think if you're like the bully team, so if you think about it from a perspective, it's neutral from the perspective of how much ahead are you of the enemy. But if you feel like you're going to get behind early, or you need time to ramp up and kill people, you want to take the tie. It might feel weird. Like there's times where I've left my back point for one reason or not really with Wong, but with other terms where I'm like, I'm just going to walk to the middle. Like, I guess it may be on like a central one where you have a Jugs, and let's just say they have a Wong, somebody contesting the middle, and you have Rhino left, and you either have a choice of walking to your back F or walking to the middle. Walk to the middle. Like, fuck your back F, right? Like, get in the action and get up where you can do your damage, and you want it to be, you'd rather have it be 3-3 than 4-4. Because 3-3 means they're close, they're not as easy to 16, because what you're expecting to happen is, you're going to do damage potentially to where you're going to have more points later in the rounds, because they're not going to have enough models to stop you. And so being in parity, you want to be parity but lower so they can't get a big swing turn and end it before you get to do it. Not always true. You got to think about the game, and that's probably a whole other video about like how many points are on the board, how many rounds you expected to go, how much action economy and stuff you have. But anyway, I think this team is pretty cool on this. I think from a perspective of like, sure, you have 9 points of splashes that are definitely not, like the two of the key splashes are not even convocation. So what are you really getting from a convocation standpoint? I think the things you're getting is, one, Wong is a great backpoint sitter. He has the eyes play. 2, I think Strange is really good on D shapes with his and Senators with his teleport and his threat ranges. I do think Mordo is a medium-based medium mover that complements this team well from a perspective of adding dice and just being annoying. And so, like, sure, it could be any team of Mystique could run this team and have a 11-point core sitting behind it of Toad, Mystique, Sam, Pyro. Yeah, something like that, right? That'd be fine. I mean, that's a pretty good 19-2. Now, you take those 11 versus, no, they need a 10-point. No, you can't go that wide then. You can't go 6 wide with these two unless you have another 2. Ugh. Anyway, you start getting to like Weenieville, where you might just get like bodied by the people. Anyway, I want to try it. We play Convocation. We don't play other people, so it's not about that. Thanks for listening.